now let's head to the next color, to the next emotion, for the dynamic skill theory, and this one is DISGUST. So the first of these cards is Perpetual Peace, with an amazing fluff drawn by Nick Jay-Z, a really cute one, and a simple effect. Static, chosen type gain 3 less influence. So what that means is that if, let's say you choose a type, let's say you choose Flame, whenever a flame tries to gain influence, it's gonna gain 3 less. So if they would gain 1, they will gain 0. If they would gain 2, they will gain 0. If they would gain 3, they will gain 0. If they would gain 4, they will gain 1. Basically you remove 3 from anything they would gain, but it doesn't go below 0. So really simple, they just gain 3 less influence. It's a card that you can play really early in the game, which makes it really powerful in a sense. It really allows you to lock the early gains of your opponent. So no matter the color you play against, you can simply choose the type. I mean, they can always have fluffs. So you can either choose fluff or one of their chill type. Faceless, Cosmic, Seedling, Sun, all these early types that the different colors have, and you should be able to cancel quite a few influence in the early game. Even in the late game, you can still cancel quite some influence with this card. Next one is Colony L6. Once again drawn by Nick Jay-Z. I think it's the first time that he drew some blobs, and they are amazing. So its effects are: players draw 1 card, players discard 2 cards, and then you gain some influence. It goes a bit in the direction of Trust, the Trust cards, the light green ones, which often do stuff for both players. So this color also does that. It's the opposite color on the wheel, on Blue Chick's wheel. So they have kind of similar effects that call to each other. And so this one is a fairly aggressive one. It really, I mean, this color overall kind of tends to push for the game to end as soon as possible. And so here, you're both gonna draw a card and you're both gonna discard 2 cards. It doesn't give you an advantage per se, but since with this color your deck is probably made to be better in the end turns, it kind of brings you towards this end turn faster. So that's a good card. Next one is Melted Suns. Melted Suns, the effect is if there are 4 or less turns, players discard 1 card. Otherwise, you remove 1 turn. So I did mention, with the Joy cards, with the yellow cards, that we are slowly gonna try to reduce the amount of add turn effects that are gonna come in the next sets, because we do not want to have too many of them. But as far as the remove turn goes, I think for them we are gonna try to keep on adding a few of them, because basically it's way less of a problem to remove turns in the game than to add turns in the game. Because adding turns in the game makes it so you can end up with games where people could play their entire deck if it's well managed, if the person who creates a deck for that really wants to push that agenda. While removing turns, it just makes the game end faster, which you come faster towards the most challenging parts of the game, towards the most thrilling end of the game. So it's a nice effect. It's not that much of a feel-bad effect. And so this particular card, really, if you are near the end of the game, it really shuts down your possibilities. You both have to discard cards, and otherwise it brings you further to the end of the game by removing turns. So I like it. Not a lot of people like this color for some reason. I feel like it's a really good one. It's just a bit hard to play, because they have effects that act on both players, they have stuff that deal with turns, and it's stuff that aren't necessarily easy to deal with, because they also have a lot of effect, like we saw for the first card, where you have to choose a type. And basically, the more you know the game, the better you will be at using these effects. because you will kind of have a sense of what type you should choose that would have the most impact for this effect. So I can understand why it really takes a bit before someone becomes familiar enough with the game that this color appeals to them, but I really like it. So this card, the new card, Colony H6, says that if there are 4 or less turns, players discard 2 cards, otherwise you remove 1 turn. So a lot of these new cards have similar templates, because for the moment this color didn't have a lot of discard things, while it works really well with what it's trying to do. So we are trying to change that with this new set. So we just added these cards, we are gonna dial it down in the future sets, but it's kind of to add them to the randomized decks. So we add a few in this set that allows for some discard for both players, and then we are just gonna have maybe 1 every set, 1 or 2. The next one is Colony C12, once again drawn by Nick Jay-Z, once again an amazing blob, and its effect is static. If a new type enters the mind, draw 1 card, then discard 1 card. So it's a really nice effect. It basically, so that's one of the new mechanics, which is static. If a new type enters, do something. So this color and the next color have it. And so it's basically a loot effect, where you draw a card and then you remove the card that you're the less likely to use. So it's always an effect that's really strong in any card game, in this one especially. And yeah, it's a card that's especially good at the beginning of the game, when there aren't that many types yet in the mind. So the way it works, the way it's stated, if a new type enters the mind. So basically you look in the mind, and when a new card enters, you check whether its type is already in one of the other cards. So for example, if there are no fluff in the mind and a fluff enters, then this effect will trigger. If there are no serpent in the mind and a serpent enters, this effect will trigger. So the earlier in the game it is played, the better it is. Next one, Shattered Clock, a serpent. So the first merge for this color. So merge 0 or more blob, and the effect is instant. Forget 1 merge blob to remove 1 turn. So it's something that can be really sneaky. Some instant effects, you might be tempted to use them right away, as fast as possible. But with this effect you might want to wait for the perfect time to remove turns, because some of the cards from this color, they care about how many turns there are left. So as they enter you can remove turns, but also you can end the game this way. So let's say there are 3 turns left and you just, a while ago you merged some blobs. You can remove all the turns that are left, and then as you end your turn is the end of the game. So it can be extremely sneaky, but the downside for this card obviously is that it doesn't gain any influence, and you have to lose some blobs if you want to do the merge effect. So it's a bit of a dangerous card to play, but it can have a great benefit. Next is Feeding the Gods, with a super nice doodle by Nick Jay-Z, and its effect is static. If a new type enters the mind, remove 1 turn. It's what we saw with the other blob. Whenever a new type enters, this time it's going to remove 1 turn, and you gain influence. So it doesn't have the trickery of the previous one of Shattered Clock, where you can remove them whenever you want, the number of turns. So it's kind of a slow trickling of removing turns. It probably won't be able to remove a lot, because when you are able to play a strong thought like that, there's probably already a lot of the types that are in the decks are in the mind. And so it won't be able to remove a lot, but it still gains some influence. Next one is the Antidote, which has a static effect which says if chosen type enters the train, opponent must answer it if able, or discard 1 card. So, really interesting effect, something that we didn't have yet. We had this effect in the style of the next time something happens, opponent must answer it, or they discard something. So here, it's also really strategic what type you choose. because you can choose one of your types. You can choose blob. And so, whenever a blob enters the train, either the opponent answers it or they have to discard a card. That's powerful, and you have control over it. But otherwise, you can make it so your opponent avoids playing some cards. You can make it so you might choose, maybe your opponent is red and you choose flame. And so every time a flame of theirs enter, they have to answer it, otherwise they have to discard a card. So they might be reluctant to play more flames, because they don't want this to happen. So it really allows you to kind of manipulate the opponent and to force it to play into your own game. I really like this kind of cards. So I find it really strong, hence why it has no gain of influence, but the effect is fairly strong. Next one is Long Lost Station. Long Lost Station has the following effect. Static, if chosen type enters the train, remove 2 turns. So, fairly simple. You choose a type. Whenever it enters the train, you remove 2 turns. So this is really an endgame engine. Because by the time you play this, probably you have the ability to play 2 cards from your hand by discarding or using time counters. And if they have the same type, you can probably end the game by then. So it's really a strong card that has the possibility to make you really destroy, really just shut down the game. The other option is to choose a type that your opponent has. Because maybe your opponent could come back. Maybe there's enough turn for your opponent to come back. But in order to do that, they might need to play an intense card. Maybe they might need to play a beast, which is the intense red card. And you probably have an intuition that if they don't do that, they're gonna lose anyway. So you might choose the type beast. And so if they play a beast, 2 turns disappear, and they won't have enough time to win afterwards. But if they don't play a beast, they won't gain enough stuff to win. So you can really put them in these kind of lock situations, which is really interesting. But these intense thoughts, so the purple ones and the lime green ones, so trust and disgust, they are the hardest to play. They are definitely the hardest to play. Because you need 5 of, so here for disgust you need 5 of sadness and anger. So 5 thoughts in the mind that are not this color. So they're hard to play. You can play them, obviously, but it needs to be in decks that probably don't have a lot of this color inside. And finally, the last one is Dreamcatcher, which has the other merge of this color. So merge 0 or more blob, static. Opponent gains 3 less influence per merged blob. So if you manage to come to a point where you have a lot of blobs in the mind, and you manage to play this card, which is, it's hard. It's probably one of the hardest cards to pull off. Let's say you manage to have 3 blobs, or even 2 blobs. Even if you have just 2 blobs, every time your opponent will gain influence, it will be 6 less, which is a lot. It's really a lot of... So if you manage to play this card before your opponent plays another intense card, you can really reduce their gains by a lot. But yeah, they are really hard to manage. If I had to vote, if I had to put my thoughts out there, I would say that this color, DISGUST, is the hardest color to play by far.